The story begins on what seems to be an ordinary day, with our protagonist, a young man, making his way down a familiar street. He's on his usual route, likely finishing up errands or perhaps heading back home from work or school. Passing by the neighborhood convenience store, he doesn't expect anything out of the ordinary. But as he nears the entrance, he notices people fleeing from the store, moving in panicked, frantic strides. There's terror in their eyes, fear etched onto their faces, a sight that immediately puts him on edge. Something terrible has happened, or has happened, or is happening inside that store. Before he has time to process, a figure emerges from the shadows within the store. It's a man, and not just any man, a dangerous one, holding a gleaming knife. His face is twisted, filled with malicious intent. As the armed man steps out onto the street, his gaze falls upon two little girls who are frozen, unable to move, petrified by fear. In that moment, everything changes for our protagonist. He can't ignore what he's seeing. His heart pounds as he makes a split-second decision. Without a second thought for his own safety, he sprints toward the girls, closing the distance between him and the assailant. His only thought is to protect them, to stop this man from hurting these innocent children. He doesn't know how things will turn out. He doesn't care. All that matters is saving them. And just as the knife-wielding man lifts his arm, our protagonist throws himself at him, tackling him to the ground with all his strength. The girls are safe. They're crying but unharmed, looking at him with tearful eyes. But then, a sharp pain rips through his side. He looks down and sees blood slowly soaking his shirt. In the chaos, he didn't even feel the knife strike him. Stabbed, injured, he feels his strength draining. His vision begins to blur as the world around him becomes hazy. The cries of the little girls reach his ears, their voices distant but heart-wrenching. They're crying for him now, their faces twisted in sorrow as they watch him bleed. In his fading consciousness, he feels a strange warmth. He's glad that they're safe. He's glad he could protect them. But as his life slips away, a bittersweet thought crosses his mind. I made them cry. I didn't mean to make them cry. With that final, tender regret, he slips into darkness. He drifts in a vast, silent void. There is no pain, only quiet, a sense of weightlessness. And then, something shifts. A strange feeling envelops him, and he becomes aware, slowly, of sounds and warmth around him. He opens his eyes to an unfamiliar ceiling, high above him, carved with intricate designs that seem far too elaborate for any hospital room. Confused, he glances around, taking in the soft bedding, the elegant furniture, the gentle light filtering in from a window. A maid dressed in an old-fashioned uniform notices him and rushes over, looking both relieved and delighted. She calls him Kane, a name that sends a jolt of confusion through him. "You're awake, Kane," she exclaims with joy. She goes on to say that his mother is overjoyed to hear he's recovered, her eyes warm and kind. His heart races, but he tries to stay calm, hoping he can piece together what's happening. As she calls for others, he catches a glimpse of himself in a nearby mirror. The reflection that meets his gaze is not his own, at least, not the one he remembers. He sees the face of a small child staring back, wide-eyed and bewildered. He realizes with a mix of shock and wonder that he has somehow been reborn. Am I in another world? Soon after, the maid who introduces herself as Sylvie returns with a woman who seems to radiate kindness. She's his mother, apparently, her face soft with motherly concern as she gently touches his cheek. She calls him Kane as well, her voice filled with affection. As they speak, he begins to understand he is in a noble family, reborn as a young boy with a new family and a new life in an unfamiliar world. When they leave to prepare a meal for him, he sits up, still dazed, struggling to come to terms with his reality. He had saved those girls, sacrificed his life without a second thought. But somehow fate, or perhaps some higher power, had granted him another chance. He looks around this luxurious room, marveling at the odd blend of luxury and antiquity, and decides he must learn more about this world. As days go by, he slowly learns about his new identity. He is now Kane Von Silford, the young son of a powerful margrave named Garm. His family includes his gentle mother, Sarah, and an older sister named Rain. He also learns of his father's first wife, Maria, who has 2 sons of her own. His new father, Garm, is a man of considerable influence and is charged with defending their land's borders. Every day, Kane pieces together more details, using every moment alone to reflect on his situation. Sylvie becomes his guide to this world. She is endlessly patient and begins to teach him about their strange land, a place filled with magical creatures, adventurers, and powerful beings. He learns that magic is real, that stories he once considered fantasy are now his reality. He longs to try magic himself, to tap into the unknown forces that fill the world. Though he has left behind everything he once knew, he finds that he doesn't miss his former life much. This world feels like a new beginning, a fresh start where he can truly make a difference. He throws himself into learning, astonishing his family with his quick intellect. His sister, Rain, proudly informs their father that Kane has learned to read and do arithmetic at an impressive speed for his age. His family praises his intelligence, unaware that he carries the knowledge of a high school student from another world. When he expresses a desire to study magic, his father advises patience, explaining that he must wait until his baptism at age 5 to receive his blessings from the gods. Secretly, Kane practices spells on his own, experimenting with small magic incantations. While he struggles at first, his persistence pays off, though not without mishaps. In one incident, he accidentally sets part of his room alight, hastily putting out the flames before Sylvie and Rain notice. Despite these challenges, he remains determined to master the art of magic and learns as much as he can about the kingdom, its history, and its mysteries. Eventually, the day of his baptism arrives. It's a grand affair, filled with ceremony and ritual. As he steps into the ancient church, he feels a powerful connection, as if something momentous is about to happen. When he kneels to pray, something extraordinary occurs. A radiant light pours from the statues of the 7 gods, and suddenly he finds himself standing before them in a celestial realm. The gods reveal to him that his heroic act in his previous life did not go unnoticed. His sacrifice moved the god of earth to grant him another chance, and thus he was reborn with his memories intact. Each god bestows him with blessings, endowing him with powers that far exceed those of ordinary mortals. When he awakens from the divine vision, he checks his status and is awestruck. His stats are astronomical, his abilities far beyond anything he had imagined. However, his father warns him of the need for secrecy, urging him not to reveal his gifts, as such power could be seen as a threat to the kingdom. Despite his growing power, Kane maintains his humility. He dedicates himself to his studies, learning everything he can about his family's duties and responsibilities. Yet, he never forgets the promise he made to himself in that other life, the desire to protect the innocent, to prevent tears and suffering. He trains, he studies, and he practices his magic in secret, determined to use his gifts for good. In one intense moment, while practicing summoning magic, he accidentally conjures a creature more dangerous than he intended. His sister and her friend are nearby, and the creature tries to attack them. With all his might, Kane shields them, ultimately sending the creature back to where it came from. As he looks at the frightened girls, he recalls the faces of the girls he saved in his past life and thinks, "I won't let anyone cry because of me again this time." He knows he has the power to make a difference. Years pass, and at his debut ceremony, his father asks him what he wants to be. With unwavering resolve, Kane replies, "I want to be an adventurer who protects people's smiles." In that moment, he feels a deep sense of purpose, ready to use his abilities to bring happiness and safety to others. This world, he decides, is where he belongs now, and he will do everything he can to make it a better place. The story picks up as Garm, a dependable figure in Kane's life, realizes that young Kane's ambitions are greater than he had imagined. Kane, despite his age, possesses a rare drive to become an adventurer, a path filled with challenges, dangers, and profound learning. Garm, seeing the spark in Kane's eyes, knows he has to give him every opportunity to grow. He gently tells Kane that if he truly wishes to be an adventurer, he'll need to study hard and gain wisdom in more than just combat. Garm promises to find him a tutor, someone with both knowledge and strength, to guide Kane on this extraordinary path. Kane's heart races with excitement and curiosity. He wonders what kind of person his tutor will be, envisioning a mighty warrior with a muscular build and a fierce aura, or perhaps a mysterious, magical figure with an air of enchantment. His thoughts run wild with anticipation, barely able to contain his excitement. The promise of training fills him with purpose and eagerness to prove himself, hoping that his tutor will recognize his potential and take him seriously despite his youth. The awaited day arrives. Sylvie, the ever-supportive family servant, approaches Kane with a warm smile, announcing that his tutor has arrived. Without a second thought, Kane, eager to make an impression, decides to teleport himself to his new tutor using his move spell. In his haste, however, he misjudges the spell, materializing directly into the arms of a young woman. In a humorously awkward moment, he finds himself pressed against her chest. The girl, amused by the situation, teases him playfully, asking if he's in need of a nurse, adding with a grin that she's not quite ready to produce milk yet. Kane, his face flushed with embarrassment, hurriedly apologizes, stammering as he tries to explain himself. The butler steps in smoothly, rescuing Kane from his awkward moment, and introduces the two women as his new tutors. Their names are Millie and Nina. Millie, with a head of vibrant red hair and an aura of fiery energy, exudes confidence. She carries herself like a true adventurer, and there's a glint in her eye that hints at a playful but competitive spirit. Beside her stands Nina, an elegant green-haired elf with a calm and composed demeanor. Her presence is almost ethereal, and her gaze reveals a wisdom beyond her years. Both women introduce themselves formally to Kane's parents, bowing respectfully as they declare their roles as D-rank adventurers. Kane, however, is eager to break down the formalities. With his youthful enthusiasm, he tells them they don't need to speak so politely. After all, they're his tutors now. Garm, overseeing this exchange, clarifies that these two remarkable adventurers will be training Kane for the next 3 years. Kane can barely contain his excitement, knowing he's about to embark on an incredible journey of growth and learning. Without delay, Millie, eager to get started, leads Kane to the training grounds. She announces that they'll be starting with the fundamentals of swordsmanship, eager to see what the young boy is capable of. Kane, gripping the sword with both hands, begins practicing his swings, pouring every ounce of his energy into each move. To her surprise, Millie notices that Kane's technique is uncommonly polished for someone his age. Each swing is precise and deliberate, betraying a natural affinity for the sword that even seasoned warriors would admire. Nina, observing from the sidelines, remarks in awe that Kane might even be more skilled than Millie herself. Not one to back down from a challenge, Millie playfully refuses to be bested by a 5-year-old. She decides to test him further, suggesting they have a mock battle to see his full potential. Kane's eyes sparkle with excitement as he readies himself, eager to prove his worth. As the battle begins, Kane attacks with remarkable agility and speed, surprising both his tutors. He moves with the confidence of someone blessed by the gods, and Nina, astonished by his prowess, wonders aloud if Kane possesses the protection of the god of war. Kane, his face lighting up with pride, admits that he does, but shyly adds that his father warned him not to speak of it outside the family. Realizing that Kane's strength in combat is already beyond what she had expected, Millie knows she won't be able to keep up at this rate. She turns to Nina, proposing they move on to the next phase magic. Nina, who possesses level 3 protection from the goddess of magic, is more than ready to share her knowledge. She begins by explaining the fundamentals, demonstrating a few basic spells, but as soon as she starts, Kane interrupts, revealing that he already knows these spells. Curious, Nina asks him to demonstrate, and Kane surprises them by casting magic without any incantations, a skill that even the most experienced mages find difficult. The ease with which he performs the spell, and the fact that he can use all elemental magic, leaves both Millie and Nina in disbelief. Only mages of the sage class can usually master multiple elements, but here Kane is, mastering them at just 5 years old. Nina wonders aloud if he also has the protection of the god of magic, to which Kane nods, causing his tutors to exchange glances filled with amazement and bewilderment. As if that weren't enough, Kane casually pulls a towel from his item box, a rare magical skill that only the most adept adventurers can possess. Millie and Nina can hardly believe it every time they think they've seen the extent of his abilities. Kane surprises them further. In a whisper, Millie confides to Nina that they may not be able to teach him anything he doesn't already know. Nevertheless, they press on, hoping to find new ways to challenge him and help him refine his abilities. Given Kane's immense power, they realize that training within the mansion grounds might be dangerous. Kane timidly admits that he's never left the mansion, except for his baptism, and his tutors agree it's time for him to explore beyond its walls. After discussing it with Garm, who gives his blessing with a tinge of concern, they venture out into the plains, where Kane can freely practice his spells without worry. Out in the open, Nina encourages Kane to try an intermediate spell on a nearby boulder. With a confident nod, he casts Firewall, reducing the boulder to rubble with a single blast. His tutors are astonished yet again, as such spells normally require significant energy and control. However, Kane seems unfazed, his magic reserves barely depleted. As they press on, a killer rabbit, a common, yet surprisingly vicious creature, leaps at Kane. Reacting instantly, Kane casts an air bullet, taking down the creature with precision. He proudly stores his first kill in his item box, his face beaming with pride at the prospect of showing it to his family. The training intensifies over the next few years, and Kane's abilities continue to grow at an alarming rate. He learns search magic from Nina, mastering it instantly, and even locating specific numbers of creatures in the area. When Nina warns him of a nearby forest filled with monsters that pose a threat to the city every decade, Kane's determination hardens. He promises to grow strong enough to protect his home and everyone he loves. Time flies, and before long, 3 years have passed. Millie and Nina, proud but slightly melancholic, tell Kane that it's time for them to move on, declining to extend their contract further. Kane, touched by their guidance and friendship, feels a wave of gratitude. Remembering that they once mentioned their dream of owning magic bags, Kane decides to make this dream a reality. That night, he ventures into the forest, where he bravely confronts a bloody ogre and an earth dragon, powerful creatures whose skins are ideal for crafting enchanted bags. After a fierce battle, he emerges victorious, obtaining the materials he needs. The next morning, as Millie and Nina prepare to leave, Kane presents them with the magic bags he created himself. Millie's bag is crafted from the bloody ogre's hide, while Nina's is made from the earth dragon's skin. Each bag can hold an enormous amount, even as much as his mansion, a feature that leaves them speechless. They thank Kane with heartfelt kisses on his cheeks, promising him they'll always be there if he ever needs their help. That night, as Kane reflects on his journey, he's met by Garm, who holds up a familiar towel found in the forest, the evidence of Kane's recent adventure. Garm, ever the cautious father, gently reminds Kane of his youth and urges him to stay mindful of his limits. Kane, though stronger than ever, listens earnestly, knowing that no matter how powerful he becomes, he'll always have more to learn. In the years ahead, Kane dreams of standing as a protector, stronger and wiser, for the world and for the ones he cherishes most. The story unfolds as young Kane, with his remarkable strength and potential, finds himself face to face with a formidable dragon. Standing tall, its scales gleam in the sunlight, and its eyes burn with ancient fury. This powerful beast, feared by all, lets out a deafening roar, daring anyone to challenge it. But Kane, with a calmness far beyond his years, steps forward, his hand tightly gripping his weapon. Taking a deep breath, he focuses every ounce of his energy, channeling his power into a single strike. In one swift and decisive motion, Kane brings his weapon down, slicing through the dragon as though it were no more than air. The creature, once mighty and unstoppable, crumbles before him, lifeless. Kane blinks in disbelief, standing amidst the silence that follows the creature's fall. He feels a surge of pride mixed with astonishment, hardly able to accept that he has slain such a powerful being with a single blow. To confirm, he cautiously approaches the dragon's still body, nudging it gently. It's truly defeated. Overcome by curiosity, Kane checks his stats and finds something staggering. His magic points exceed 80 million, an almost incomprehensible level for anyone, especially someone his age. As he scans his stats further, he notices 2 new titles awarded to him: Enemy of All Monsters and Dragon Killer. These titles bring a sense of achievement, but they also remind him of the weight of his actions and the responsibilities that come with such power. 2 years pass since that fateful battle. Now 10 years old, Kane is on his way to the royal capital, where he will make his official debut in society. His young friend Reen, who's been eagerly awaiting this day, is thrilled at the prospect of living together in the capital. She dreams out loud of the adventures they'll share and urges Kane to start attending the academy right away. Her father, however, steps in gently, reminding her that Kane is still too young and cannot officially start his studies until he turns 12. Reen, undeterred, declares that she'll take the Academy's top position in the entrance exams, determined to prove her abilities. Kane, with his characteristic curiosity, asks how long their journey to the capital will take. Garm, his father, explains that it should take about a week if they don't encounter any monsters along the way. Ever proactive, Kane activates his search skill and quickly discovers that a battle is already raging 3 kilometers ahead. He senses a dozen or so knights struggling against a horde of monsters. Without hesitation, he informs his father, and Garm instructs their own knights to increase their pace. However, Kane, realizing that the knights might not arrive in time, takes matters into his own hands. He channels his wind magic, launching himself forward in a swift gust. As Kane reaches the scene, he witnesses the knights, fatigued and battered, struggling against a swarm of orcs, their leader a powerful orc general looming over them. Kane jumps into the fray, wielding both his magic and sword skills with unmatched precision. Each movement is fluid and calculated, his attacks cutting through the orcs with ease. In a matter of moments, he has defeated not only the orc soldiers but the fearsome general as well. Once the dust settles, Kane introduces himself to the astonished knights, revealing his noble lineage as the third son of Margrave Kane Von Silford. Shortly after, Garm and their group of knights arrive at the scene. Garm surveys the aftermath, noting that Kane has already dispatched all the monsters and even taken the time to heal the injured knights. The knights, awestruck, express their gratitude as Kane uses his magic to restore their strength. He then carefully collects the bodies of the fallen soldiers, storing them in his item box to ensure their remains are honored and returned to their families. A carriage bearing the crest of Duke Santana pulls up nearby, and from within step Princess Celestia and Lady Silk, both visibly shaken but safe. Garm warmly greets them, relieved that they are unharmed. The Princess and Lady Silk, equally grateful, thank Kane and his father for their timely intervention. Intrigued by Kane's skills and bravery, the ladies ask for his name, and he introduces himself formally. Celestia, feeling faint from the day's horrors, winces as a headache takes hold. Noticing her discomfort, Kane respectfully asks her permission to use a calming spell, offering her a reprieve from the fear and exhaustion. With her consent, Kane casts his relaxed spell, soothing her mind and bringing her peace. Both Celestia and Silk feel their tension and stress melt away, their hearts suddenly lighter, and they express their appreciation with warm smiles. Silk, captivated by Kane's prowess, compliments his skill with both sword and magic, even teasing him slightly with admiration. The Princess and Lady Silk, now feeling more comfortable around Kane, start to compete playfully for his attention, each vying to express her gratitude. Kane mentions that he's headed to the capital for his debut, and the ladies, delighted to discover their shared destination, insist that he travel with them. The royal guards move aside, allowing Kane to join the ladies in their luxurious carriage. Kane quickly realizes that the space is a bit too cramped, so he politely offers to sit on the opposite side. The Princess and Lady Silk, however, plead with him to stay close, confessing that they feel safer with him by their side. As they settle into their journey, the princess shyly asks Kane to call her Tellys, while Lady Silk insists he address her simply as Silk. Kane hesitates, aware of the social hierarchy that places these noble ladies well above his rank, but they insist, making it clear that they want no formalities between friends. Kane eventually agrees, though not without some embarrassment. As they near the town of Renoma, a guard interrupts their conversation, instructing everyone to prepare to disembark. Kane, feeling slightly embarrassed about the intimate carriage ride, wonders if the guards had been watching their interactions. In the town, Kane bids the ladies goodnight, only to have them insist that he stay with them. Silk claims that the unsettling memories of the earlier battle still haunt her, and Celestia, echoing her sentiment, expresses fear of being alone after the day's harrowing events. Garm, ever the watchful father, gently suggests that it may not be proper for Kane to share a room with young ladies, but the princess argues passionately, claiming they won't sleep soundly without Kane nearby. Relenting under their persistent requests, Garm finally arranges a large room for them all to stay together, warning Kane to act with discretion. As night falls, the princess and Silk rearrange their beds to be as close as possible to Kane, seeking comfort in his presence. Despite his protests, they assure him that they feel safer knowing he's nearby, insisting that this arrangement is the only way they'll be able to sleep. Kane, though a little flustered, agrees, promising to guard them through the night. The next morning, after a restless night, Kane emerges exhausted but determined to continue his journey. Over the following days, he finds himself in much the same situation, with the princess in silk frequently drawing close to him under various pretexts. By the time they reach the royal capital, Kane is sleep-deprived but proud to have protected his companions every step of the way. At the gates, a knight named Diam, the vice-captain of the Royal Chivalric Order, greets them, noticing the close bond the young ladies seem to share with Kane. After they recount how Kane saved them from the orc attack, Diam thanks him with deep respect and admiration. Kane retrieves the bodies of the fallen soldiers from his item box, allowing them to be given proper honors and farewells. Diam expresses his profound gratitude, noting that Kane's efforts ensure these brave souls will be returned to their families. Shortly afterward, the king himself summons Kane for an audience. In the grand throne room, the court listens as the minister recounts Kane's heroics, detailing how he single-handedly defeated 50 orcs and saved the princess and Lady Silk. The nobles murmur in astonishment, struggling to comprehend such feats from someone so young. Impressed by Kane's bravery and skill, the king bestows upon him the rank of baron, along with 10 platinum coins and a mansion. One nobleman, Corgino, protests, arguing that it's improper to grant a title to a 10-year-old. The king, however, stands firm, recognizing Kane's extraordinary potential and the need to secure him as an asset to the kingdom. The king, with a hint of warmth, extends an invitation to Kane and his father to join him in the parlor afterward, where they are joined by Duke Eric von Santana, Lady Silk's father. The king and the duke, grateful for Kane's heroics, propose an engagement between Kane and their daughters, citing the deep bond he has already formed with them during the journey. Kane, cornered by the noble logic of their request, has little choice but to agree, realizing that the engagement, though unexpected, is a way to cement his loyalty to the kingdom and his place within its noble circles. Later, Kane reflects on the whirlwind of events that have transpired since he set out on this journey. He thinks of the princess and Lady Silk, the battles he has fought, and the responsibilities that come with his new title. The weight of his powers, his newfound duties, and his connections to the royal family all dawn on him, leaving him both excited and humbled by the path before him. His adventure has only just begun, and with his new allies, titles, and purpose, he is determined to rise to whatever challenges the future may hold.